Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. Let's begin. Cameroonians are rejoicing because they have been authorized to go about with their expired identity cards. Southern Cameroons have nothing to rejoice about, as the opportunity has been denied them by the Colonial La Republic government. The message signed by the Colonial Delegate General for National Security prohibiting the withholding of identity documents from passengers because they have expired has brought much relief to many who had lost all hopes. Curiously, the two English regions of the Cameroons are not concerned. This means the Colonial La Republic Police Force has been officially given the mandate to extort as much money as they want from Southern Cameroonians with expired identity papers. Now, if you're wondering why that this favor or segregation, that answer should be obvious by now. To dig deeper into these and other important reports of concern, we'll have the prime headlines usher us into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight.
Right here are the prime headlines for today. La Republic de Cameroon's destructive tendency towards Ambazonian culture is the first story. We will be looking at how La Republic de Cameroon is bent on destroying the culture and traditions of the Southern Cameroonians. The Anglophone region of the Cameroons, exempted from the privilege of going about with expired ID cards, is another report. Also tonight, the Colonial La Republic de Cameroon General Buba displays fake concern to the people of Fandong, Njinikom and Belloy in an attempt to know the whereabouts of the ARFs. Colonial Douala City starts the demolition of unsafe houses without any relocation plan for the people. Alright, also tonight we'll be looking at the corruption of La Republic de Cameroon at different levels. Right, on an African report, Mali declares that foreign military intervention in Niger would be considered war against them too. Right, and on the foreign scene, President Trump is in the news again. Well, he's been indicted for efforts to overturn 2022 presidential election results. And of course, in sports, FIFA Women's World Cup is still on. We will be looking at the NFL legends becoming minority owner of a big city. Now let's get the news in detail.
Vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real warhorse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian/African movies, global politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro-governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, fronting IG and people of Ambazonia's position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE, Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian Community with Dr. Yaya, Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Amba, Our Freedom, Spiritual Awareness and Education for the Ambazonian Community with Pastor Victor Amba and Pastor Commando, Church and Politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando, The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey, Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando, Appointment on Community Building, Education on Patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima, Ethics for an Emerging Nation, Watchdog of Basic Principles and Morals of a Nation at War with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe.
Well, it has always been the prime objective to transform the strong and highly reverenced chiefdoms of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia into an extension of the Colonial Republic of Cameroon's government structure. Today, as part of the dubious agenda, Ambazonian chiefs' funds have been baptized as auxiliaries to the colonial BS regime with monthly stipends. This has greatly put the custodians of the tradition into a tight corner. They are obliged to be answerable to their colonial regime somehow than to the people that they are their spiritual leaders. Sir, hi.
Very well, Ongi. Palaces belongs to the village, and the responsibility of the sons and daughters of that given village beautifies the palace. The Colonial Republic government is stepping in to deny the sons and daughters of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia this privilege by planning the rehabilitation of palaces. 15 palaces have been mapped out in the Atlantic zone of Ambazonia for rehabilitation by the colonial government of La Republique du Cameroon. It is considered an insult to the sons and daughters of these villages, because what is the use of the Village Development Association if they invade their place?
Well, the Colonial Republic of Cameroon's government, through the Ministry of Territorial Administration, in-house Leif Paul Atanganji, has issued a statement for the rehabilitation of palaces in Victoria and Boya, going by the statement signed on the 28th of July. Their senior divisional officers are instructed to rehabilitate 15 palaces.
Of the 15 palaces to be rehabilitated, 8, that is Upper Fue, Monde, Mapanja, Mbinde, Wokole, Wonya, Imali, Lower Ewunda, and Castle palaces are in Boya. 6 are from Victoria, Mokota, Kole, Mvete, Wonjamba, Ewuke, and Tumata palaces, and 1 in Tiko is Tiko Dwaland, all of the Atlantic zone of Ambazonia.
While Cameroonians are rejoicing because they have been authorized to go about with their expired identity cards, Ambazonians have nothing to rejoice about, as the opportunity has been denied them by the Colonial Republic of Cameroon's government. The message signed by the Colonial Delegate General for National Security, Martin Mbarga Ngole, prohibiting the withholding of identity documents from passengers because they have expired, has brought much relief to many who had lost all hopes. Curiously enough, the two English regions of the Cameroons are not concerned.
This means that the Colonial Republic of Cameroon Police Force has been officially given the mandate to extort as much money as they want from southern Cameroon's Ambazonians with expired identity cards, whether disfavor or segregation. It is obvious, a clear sign that the country is divided. There is a growing resentment about the late production of identity cards in the country. Some say they are sometimes harassed by the Colonial Republic Police Force at the checkpoints because of expired ID cards. The message signed by the Colonial Delegate General for National Security, Martin Mbarga Ngwele, prohibiting the withholding of identity documents from passengers because they have expired, has brought much relief to many who had lost all hope, but for Ambazonians.
Well, this message excludes the two Anglophone regions. According to the release, people can now travel with expired ID cards without being harassed by security forces in other regions and not in Ambazonia, where the Colonial Republic of Cameroon's police are permitted to do their worst in such a case. Despite this measure being presumed to be good for the population, citizens from Ambazonia and La Republic of Cameroon decry being left from the list of regions to benefit from this new development.
Now, after making waves on social media, we could read some people saying these people have shared the country. They have added La Republique of Cameroon to the southern Cameroons, activating the mode of special status. Some even went ahead to say they did not include Amazonians in this new development, so let no one try using this document in southern Cameroon's Amazonia.
The Colonial Republic of Cameroon Military General Buba Debekro is going around villages as a shift to lure the population to expose the whereabouts of the Ambazonian Restoration Forces. He thinks the people of Ambazonia are not wise. He thinks that the Restoration Forces are from the space. He thinks that they are sons and daughters of whom are not from the same village. So he thinks the people will betray their flesh and blood with all of the atrocities that La Republique of Cameroon has been carrying out in Ambazonia. La Republique of Cameroon has proven itself as the enemy to the progress of the people of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. The memories of the Ngaba massacre of innocent children by La Republique of Cameroon terrorist soldiers are still very fresh in the minds of the people of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia.
The same terrorist soldiers are going around with fake smiles on their faces as if their goal is to protect. Of recent, they were in Bibabanki in the guise of protection, and the result effects were the littering of innocent lifeless bodies around and the forced evacuation of the working population to the wild. Terrorists, the General Buba on a hypocritical tour of villages in the northern zone in an attempt to win the people's trust and expose the camps of the Ambazonian Restoration Forces. Well, it's a waste of time and resource. The people of southern Cameroons know who the enemy is. La Republique is not a friend to the Ambazonians or Amazonian Restoration Forces.
Well, the population of Fondon, Injinikon and Bello have been challenged to cooperate with La Republique of Cameroon colonial forces and terrorist security forces just to track down all Ambazonian restoration forces in the country. Well, the call was made by terrorist General Buba Debekro, who is the commander of the 5th Joint Military Region, on Tuesday at the Fondon Motor Park in the presence of other colonial authorities.
The terrorizing general had also visited Big Bebanki, where La Republique military atrocities have been intensified in the recent past. This comes at a time when there have been a lot of clashes between the Amazonian Restoration Forces and the occupational La Republique security forces in the area.
Well, demolitions in city centers today is as a result of poor planning of yesterday. Neighboring La Republic, the Cameroon government is guilty of poor planning in the different towns in the Cameroon to corrupt colonial administrators. Even if the demolitions of the settlements are to follow the trend of development, they should only come after the victims of the demolitions have been relocated. The Colonial Douala City Council is demolishing houses considered to be unsafe without relocating those affected. The colonial president, Biya, is careless about the plight of the common man. What will become of those affected given that this is happening just a month to school resumption?
Well, the Douala City Council has embarked on a mission to dismantle all buildings deemed at risk of collapsing in the bustling economic capital city of Cameroon to safeguard the lives of its citizens. The local authorities have taken proactive measures to identify and address structures that pose a threat to public safety. The initiative comes as part of the Colonial Council's ongoing effort to maintain a secure urban environment. Douala, known for its commercial activities and bustling streets, has seen a rapid increase in construction projects in recent years.
However, this scourge has also raised concerns about the structural integrity of certain buildings, prompting the Colonial Council to take swift action by closely monitoring their city's buildings, prompting the Colonial Council to take swift action by monitoring the city's infrastructure as well. The Colonial Douala City Council has identified several structures that exhibit signs of instability or deterioration. The operation at Mobile Guinness in Douala 5 commenced yesterday. This much awaited initiative has garnered immense attention from both locals and industry experts alike. A large contingent of colonial municipal police officers and La Republic of Cameroon police personnel have joined forces to execute the operation. This is because the victims are against demolition, as they don't have where else to go to.
Well, this, according to the Colonial Council, is a swift response to the recent collapse of the four-story building, which has led authorities to take decisive action by demolition to adjacent buildings. The move comes as part of ongoing efforts to ensure the safety and well-being of the surrounding area. To prevent future calamities, the Colonial City Council's Construction Control Department has outlined this as its primary objective. The question now is, where were they before the structures were erected in the first place?
Well, all of this is in response to the tragic incidents that occurred at Mobile Guinness Douala 5, which resulted in the loss of approximately 40 lives. The recent Mobile Guinness incident has shed light on the rampant chaos prevailing in Douala's construction sector. In a startling revelation, a recent report has shed light on a series of questionable construction practices that has come to light.
Now, these practices include the erection of buildings amid swamps, construction on precarious hillsides, and the use of subpar materials or inadequate technical specifications. These findings have raised concerns about the safety and durability of these structures, leading many to question the integrity of the construction industry, all these under the watchful eyes of corrupt City Council construction control officers.
All right, I'm moving on. Sad news getting to ABC Amba TV says Bui County is on the siege since 1st of August by the colonial genocidal military, and more keeps coming. It had equally been confirmed in very high quarters that the occupier had planned genocide to capture and destroy Bui by the end of October, and this invasion seems to be coming in fulfillment. But Bui, being the land of no return, is sure Ambazonians shall fold their arms to not let this happen.
Well, reports from Scandi Media says that the month of August started on another bad foot for the civilians in Bui, being victims and targets of the genocidal La Republic military, as always is the case, adding that the several military trucks that just came into Bui through Zekwa local government area brought tears and pain into some families. An eyewitness account says the Colonial La Republic military drove through Jakiri local government area shooting indiscriminately and stopped at mile 55 in car still under Jakiri local government area where a child, someone below 15 years of age, was said to have been hit by a bullet at a place called Nkadze, more than a kilometer away. This child is feared to be dead at press time. At Sorbam shop quarters still under Jakiri local government area, another civilian is said to have been shot at close range in a critical stage.
Well, that already being bad enough, reports from the military went to where he laid and tagged him, an ARF warrior, pulling the trigger again to finish his life. But the brave woman at the scene shouted to his rescue, and he is now battling between life and death. Well, Scandal Media concludes and says it is time to support and assist them to stop these barbarism. He says, we extend our condolence and sympathy to the victims of the family. He ends by saying Bui is bleeding and needs all the support they can get.
Recent discovery shows 8.67 billion francs CFA stolen from 1997 to 2021. Well, this frightening figure was revealed at the local La Republic Equinas TV program. It means the right to be heard as the leftovers of investigations of financial crimes in La Republic, unfinished by the slain journalist Martinez Sergo, rest in peace, after the latter's death, brutally killed by those involved in pilfering in the coffers of La Republic. His colleagues were bent on taking the findings to the end, which was again revealed that 67 fictitious financial transactions were carried out at the La Republic Department of Taxation that swallowed a colossal sum of 400 billion francs CFA between 2017 to 2021, and that 29 of such transactions had no justifications, and the money was shared as follows. To one Matarawi, an Italian, had 162 billion francs CFA. Another fake company based on Marua got 134 billion francs CFA. And the famous Amugo Belinga, now in Kandegi prison, got 70 billion francs CFA.
Well, in all the fake transactions at the level of La Republic to Cameroon Taxation Department, it has ruined the Banana Republic from 1997 to 2021 of over 32% GNP, and at June 30th, 2023, the neighboring La Republic of Cameroon was indebted to the tune of over 12.137 billion francs CFA. The investigative journalists and panelists have prescribed death penalty for all financial crimes in La Republic of Cameroon. But then, in a country where law and order have different definitions from the dictionary, that declaration can only be a window dressing.
It's likely this type of lawlessness, disorderliness, and corruption that has the octogenarian dictator being jeered at by his own in Russia. The neighboring La Republic denizens in Moscow had all along pretended to be very welcoming to the monarch until the octogenarian president was about to take off for the airport at St. Petersburg, when things turned sour and anti-beer colors and voices were unleashed. List of Cameroon denizens arrested in Moscow for jeering beer include 2 Ambazonians, and these people were chanting in Russia, trying to insult the octogenarian. President Paul Biya and the Russian Secret Service arrested them all. Some of them have worked for years to get Russian citizenship to escape from the failed and repressive Yaoundé junta. Their citizenship was all cancelled, and they will all be repatriated to the dungeons of Genocido La Republic, sadly. Undaunted cries the fate of the 2 Ambazonian denizens involved, Ekwe Roland and Achi Collins, who once in La Republic will pass straight to the guillotine.
All right, the victims are Kamga Innocent Arno, Tuchon David, Tonfak Bonvacho, and then we have Ako Simon. We also have Ekwe Roland Archie Collins in the list, and a whole lot of other persons. Now, when you take a look at this list, it shows that apart from the two unfortunate Ambazonian victims, the rest are of Bamileke extraction. A large Republic, the Cameroon tribe hated to the marrow by the Betty Bolu's ruling junta. Could it be settlement of scores? The answer cannot be far from that. Now, it is also in that same vein that when you look at the efforts of the interim government led by President Dr. Samuel Ikomesaku, you realize that everything has been done in a manner that it is clear, a manner that it's very audible to the deaf and very bright to the blind. Now, you look at all of their funds raised from their draft, you would see that they have been put into proper use. They are highly accounted from or for, county by county. This is very laudable. Now, going forward, the interim government led by Dr. Samuel Ikomesaku has also proven that they are ready to take the bull by the horn and do what it has to do concerning getting to Boya. Earlier today, Dr. Sako was in a radio interview far away in America, and it was an amazing interview. Now, if you had the opportunity to listen to the interview, you would see that he knows everything, not just internationally, but local too. And so he talked in-depthly about all of the natural and mineral resources found in Ambazonia. He talked about the Indian resource. He talked about how La Republic to Cameroon is even benefiting from Ambazonia. That could be a reason why they do not want to let Ambazonia go. He also talked about the historicity. He gave all of the UN resolutions in that particular interview. The anchor was amazed and thrilled and even asked what they can do to support. Of course, make the interview go viral, let the whole world hear, and let the world know what Ambazonians are suffering. He also reiterated the sufferings of the people from the onset of this particular war. And he said, if only he should talk about the 7 years that he has been in charge of, I mean, tears and cries will roll. When he was asked about what he thinks about the Russian and the Ukrainian war, President Sako, of course, gave his intelligent response there and, of course, gave an advice. Well, subsequently, in Undaunted News Briefing, we'll give you more details and more analysis. But just in case you missed this particular interview, of course, you can always go down to rewatch from the Ambazonian YouTube or Facebook pages. Coming up next is African Report.
And in Africa, still on the most recent coup, Niger's ruling junta and civil society groups called on the nation to mobilize in the capital on Thursday to fight for the country's freedom and push back against foreign interference. Mahama Sanusi, interim coordinator for the M62 civil society group organizing the protest, told the Associated Press AP that they are talking about the immediate departure of all foreign forces.
Well, the march falls on the West African nation's Independence Day from its former colonial ruler. And as anti-French sentiment spikes, protests are expected throughout the capital, Niamey, to push back against foreign meddling. The coup has been strongly condemned by Western countries, many of which saw Niger as the last reliable partner for the West in efforts to battle jihadists linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group in Africa's Sahel region.
Well, record has it that France has 1,500 soldiers in Niger who conduct joint operations with its military, and the United States and other European countries have helped train the nation's troops. In an address to the nation on Wednesday, the new military ruler, General Abdurrahmane Tiani, lashed out at neighboring countries and the international community and called on the population to be ready to defend the nation. Niger said Tiani will face difficult times ahead and that the hostile and radical attitudes of those who oppose his rule provide no added value. He called harsh sanctions imposed last week by the West African bloc known as ECOWAS illegal, unfair, inhumane, and unprecedented.
ECOWAS has also threatened to use force if ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, who remains under house arrest, is not released and reinstated by the 6th of August. In a closed-door meeting on Wednesday, dozens of people from civil society organizations, professional groups, and trade unions spoke with the coup leaders about their vision for the country. Sanusi from M62 was at the meeting and said the junta talked about their priorities to the nation, including securing it from violence. But another civil society member at the same gathering, who did not want to be named for security reasons, told AP they left feeling concerned. They had a strong impression that the French military was going to be ousted soon and that members of civil society groups would help the junta do it. But then you wonder, is that something to celebrate or one to be bothered about?
Meanwhile, one of the officers behind the coup in Niger, General Salifou Modi, visited Mali on Wednesday and met with officials from the country. Modi and his delegation attended a meeting with Colonel Massimi Goïta, who seized control of the landlocked West African country nearly 3 years ago. Western countries fear that Niger will fall under Russia's influence after the coup, especially as Mali has welcomed up to 1,000 fighters from the Wagner Group. Obviously, the battle over Africa continues, even with Africa severing ties with France.
Burkina Faso and another military junta-led Mali have taken the unusual step of declaring that foreign military intervention in neighboring Niger after last week's coup would be considered a declaration of war against them too. Part of the frustration in Niger and its neighbors over government's weaknesses in addressing corruption and the threat from Islamic extremism has been aimed at France, the former colonizer of present-day Mali, Guinea, Niger, Burkina Faso, and others in Western Central Africa. Russia has quite well used the opportunity by feigning itself to African nations as a country that never colonized the continent, winning support in Mali and other African nations for Moscow and the Russian mercenary group Wagner.
Still on Niger's coup, in one of few addresses to the West African country since seizing power from Niger's democratically elected president a week ago, General Abdurrahmane Tiani warned against foreign meddling and military intervention against the coup, even from Mali's declaration that foreign intervention in Niger would be considered a declared war against them as neighbors shows at least one thing, that the battle over Africa and every form of neocolonization is not encouraged anymore, which should be pretty clear at least after Africa's independence. The one thing it shows is Mali saying the continent can handle its own business. In all of this, what's to be expected in the coming days and weeks, we can never say for sure, but we'll certainly bring you up to speed with updates to this report.
And on the foreign scene, former U.S. President Donald Trump was indicted on Tuesday in the Justice Department investigation for his alleged efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Trump was charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. The indictment is the third criminal case brought against the former president as he seeks to reclaim the White House in 2024. Prosecutors had been investigating Trump's efforts to undermine President Joe Biden's 2020 election victory and the U.S. Capitol rout on January 6, 2021.
Well, he was summoned to appear at a Washington, D.C. courthouse today, Thursday, August 3rd. Each of these conspiracies, which built on a widespread mistrust Trump was creating through pervasive and destabilizing about election fraud, targeted the bedrock function of the U.S. federal government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the result of the presidential elections it at. 6 unindicted core conspirators were mentioned in the indictment, including 4 unnamed attorneys who allegedly aided Trump in his attempt to overturn the election result. Also included in one unnamed Justice Department official who attempted to use the Justice Department to open sham election crimes investigations and influence state legislations with knowingly false claims or election fraud, it says.
Well, he says, don't forget that Trump was charged in June with mishandling classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. Remember, we gave you exclusive discussions on that. Both the classified document case and the election interference case were investigated by Special Counsel Jack Smith. Remember also in March, Trump was indicted on New York State charges of falsifying business records in connection with hush money's payment to an adult film actress ahead of the 2016 presidential election. We also gave you details of that particular indictment. Well, we'll bring you up to speed with more information on this particular one as it unfolds.
And for sports, we'll join Gab Ellison in the sports studio.
Latest world sports. Football. FIFA Women's World Cup 2023. Morocco has reached the last 16 on their Women's World Cup debut after beating Colombia, although the South Americans progress as Group H winners. Germany's failure to beat South Korea means Morocco are into the knockout rounds as runners-up. Anissa Lamari scored the only goal via a rebound after captain Ghislaine Chebak's penalty was saved. Morocco, who lost 6-0 to the Germans in their opener before successive wins, will face France in Adelaide next. Colombia, who earned 2 wins in their first 2 matches and finished above Morocco on goal defense, will play Jamaica in Melbourne earlier on 8 August. Two-time champions Germany were sent crashing out of the Women's World Cup group stages in the biggest shock of the tournament, thanks to a draw with South Korea. It is the first time in Germany's history they have failed to reach the knockout stages. One of the pre-tournament favorites, Germany, knew they needed to better Morocco's result against Colombia to progress in Group H. But that match finished 1-0 to Morocco. An early goal by South Korea's Cho So-yeon shook the Euro 2022 finalists in Brisbane, but captain Alexander Pope netted her first goal in 3 matches to equalize shortly before halftime. Germany were heading through as group runners-up as they went off the pitch for a break, but Morocco stunned Colombia to score minutes later in Perth, meaning Martina Voss' Tecklenburg side had to win. Pope was their best hope of scoring again, and she almost did, thumping a header off the crossbar minutes after she had bundled it over the line, only for the video assistant referee to confirm it was offside. The Wolfsburg striker came close again later when she sent a free header wide off the post, roaring in frustration as the minutes ticked away for Germany. During stoppage time, Germany sent countless crosses into South Korea's box to no avail as substitute Sidney Lohmann struck wide and sent another effort inches over the bar. Germany's players fell to the ground at full time and were in tears as they were consoled by staff members. South Korea finished bottom of the group, having lost their first 2 matches. Tom Brady, NFL legend, becomes minority owner of Birmingham City. Seven-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady has become a minority owner of championship side Birmingham City. The NFL legend, who retired from the sport in February, has entered a partnership with Blues' new owners, Knighthead Capital Management LLC. The 46-year-old will become chairman of a new advisory board at St. Andrews. Tom Brady joining the Birmingham City team is a statement of intent. "We are setting the bar at world class," Knighthead co-founder Tom Wagner said. Tom is both investing and committing his time and extensive expertise. As chair of the advisory board, Tom will have direct impact on the club. The men's, women's, and academy teams are going to benefit from the knowledge. The goal that Tom has committed to own is to make Birmingham City a respected leader in nutrition, health, wellness, and recovery across the world of football. In a statement, the club said Brady will also work closely with the board and the management team on global marketing efforts and the identification of new commercial partnership opportunities for the club. US-based Shelby Companies Limited, a subsidiary of Knighthead Capital Management, completed its takeover of Birmingham City in July. As part of that deal, SEL became controlling shareholders of the previously Chinese-owned club. Birmingham City is an iconic club with so much history and passion, and to be part of the Blues is a real honor for me, Brady said. BCFC is built on teamwork and determination, and I'm excited to work alongside the board, management, and players to make our second city club second to none. I've been part of some amazing teams in my day, and I'm looking forward to applying my perspective to create that same success here in Birmingham. Rugby Union. Rugby League World Cup. Southern Hemisphere to host in 2026 after France withdrawal. The Southern Hemisphere will host the Rugby League World Cup in 2026 after France withdrew for financial reasons. France was awarded the tournament in January 2022 after initial plans for it to be held in North America for the first time were scrapped, but organizers were unable to meet financial criteria set out by the French government, and in May it was announced that they had pulled out. The event will feature 10 men's, 8 women's, and 8 wheelchair teams. The 8 men's quarterfinalists from the previous World Cup, held in England in 2022, will automatically qualify for the 2026 tournament, as will the 4 women's and wheelchair semi-finalists. The men's tournament has been reduced from 16 teams to ensure an elite competition, the International Rugby League (IRL) said. Originally due to be held in 2025, the shift to 2026 comes as part of a revised calendar, with the following edition to be held in 2030. Women's World Cups are to be staged as standalone tournaments from 2028 to recognize the game's phenomenal rate of growth, while a decision will be taken on when best to schedule Wheelchair World Cup after 2026. The IRL board has made these decisions to create more compelling content and secure the financial future of international game. IRL chair Troy Grant said, "The cancellation of France 2025 has given us an opportunity to refresh the structure of the World Cup and associated tournaments as part of a long-term international calendar that all in the game have been desperately seeking. There are 2 bids to host in 2026 after Southern Hemisphere nations. New Zealand already made their interest public, but the IRL decided its original offer to replace France as hosts in 2025 did not leave enough time to hold a successful tournament. Australia is believed to be the other bidder, while the Pacific nations are likely to be involved in either bid. An announcement will be made before the end of the year, but the selected host will have to guarantee the tournament's financial security. The tournament had been due to be staged in France during October and November 2025. England held the previous event in 2022, which was delayed 1 year due to the coronavirus pandemic. Australia were crowned men's and women's champions, with the host claiming the wheelchair title. The IRL, the sports world governing body, agreed on new calendar 2030, which will see the return of the Ashes, with England's men's and women's teams traveling to Australia in 2025. New Zealand and Australia will also play in England in 2027 and 2028. The IRL said it hoped to place greater emphasis on regional championships and World Cup qualifying tournaments for the Americas, Asia Pacific, Europe, and Middle East Africa. Plans for a World Series format are also being developed. It is no secret that the Achilles heel for International Rugby League for far too long has been the absence of an international calendar, Grant said. The ad hoc nature of tournaments and international matches and the absence of any clarity for nations, players, and fans to plan their seasons is over. Gab Ellison reporting from Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
Alright, and with that sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at our major stories.
We brought to you La Republic destructive tendency towards Amazonian culture, as La Republic is bent on destroying the culture and traditions of the peoples of southern Cameroon by planning to rehabilitate the palace. Amazonian and La Republic proven to be two separate entities, as the Anglophone regions of the Cameroons is exempted from the privilege of going about with an expired ID card, whereas the rest of the Cameroon is free to do so. We brought to you La Republic terrorist general feigning concern in order to get the whereabouts of the Amazonian restoration forces.
Alright, tonight we told you that the Colonial Douala city starts the demolition of unsafe houses without any relocation plan. A contingent of Colonial Republic to Cameroon military dispatched to give Fundi his last respect is now terrorizing the Bui population. Financial scandals, including broad-day thefts, uncovered at La Republic de Cameroon Taxation Department. On the African scene, we continued with our Mali report. And of course, on the foreign scene, we got you a report of President Trump's indictment. The Women's World Cup came from the sports studio. And that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of Michael and Coaster Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.